It's March, which means that spring is right around the corner, and we're thinking that the weather might not be the only thing heating up. We see the potential for interest rates improving and the housing market continuing to get hotter moving into the spring and summer months. But let's also dig into where things stand as of today and get to the bottom line. Good morning. It's great to be back here on the bottom line and looking forward to going over some of the new information that we have to review with you today. Let's start with the National Case-Shiller Home Price Index, which is considered the gold standard when it comes to appreciation data. This showed that home prices for existing properties fell by 0.8% in the month of December on a non-seasonally adjusted basis. That just means the raw numbers showed a decline of 0.8%. When you factor in the normal softness that you could see during this time of year, which is pretty consistent every year in the winter, especially in markets like ours in the Northeast, and you make these seasonal adjustments, they were only down by about 0.3%. While home prices have been softening a bit recently, it's good to keep in mind they are still up about 6% year over year. Now, when we look at the 20 city index, which we've referred to before, this is the 20 main metropolitan areas, the 20 largest cities in the country. Home prices are down by 4.4% from their peak in June of 2022. So it's clear that some of the areas that had the most appreciation the fastest, like San Francisco and Seattle, saw huge gains. They are now giving back a bit more because prices are softening. So you're seeing more of a decline in these concentrated areas, these cities. The FHFA gives us a good contrary data point because this shows us some information on their home price index, which just includes conforming loan amounts. And that means it does not include cash buyers, jumbo purchases. So it's going to give us an indication and exclude some of the highest priced properties. Now, the FHFA reported that prices were down by 0.7% in December and only 0.1% after seasonal adjustments. So year over year, the FHFA has home prices up by 6.6%. So based on this, and we've said this before, it is reasonable to interpret that some of the decline in home prices is coming from the higher priced homes where there's not as much demand. Now, when we look at rent, Apartment List reported that rents rose by 0.3% in February and are now up 3% year over year. So still seeing increases in that area, but not nearly at the same pace that we were previously. And the bottom line is that home prices, rental prices have been decelerating significantly, and they've actually shown some outright declines in different cases. And when you look at inflation and the CPI report, which we'll be getting again in the near future, the shelter component is a big factor of inflation. And that has still been accelerating based on how they calculate the data because they're looking back. But that is going to catch up. So when it catches up and starts to reflect the slowdown in shelter increases, that's going to be deflationary, and that could start to help mortgage interest rates improve. Because remember, mortgage interest rates are closely tied to inflation. So we'll keep you posted on that data. But first, Jake, why don't you give us some insight on where interest rates stand as of today?
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. I would be happy to do so. And of course, welcome back. It's great to have you. So without further ado, the MBA released their application data for last week, and this showed that purchase applications fell by 5.6% last week, now putting them down negative 44% year over year. We also saw an increase to the interest rate, going from 6.625% to 6.75%, which is going to be putting us 2.625% higher than this same time last year, where rates were in the range of around 4 1/8. Now, when we switch gears a little bit and we talk about pending home sales, which as a reminder is what measures signed contracts on already existing homes, this was increased by quite a bit. It rose by 8.1% in January. And this is much, much stronger than expectations, which had this number coming in at a 1% gain. Now, sales are down 24% when you compare it to last year, but there was a considerable pickup in activity during the month of January, which typically, we don't see that. January is not really known as a strong housing month, but we think that this was fueled by the improvement in interest rates, having them move back down into the low sixes. Now, with rates ticking back up in February, we should probably be prepared for the next release of this report to come in a bit weaker. Back to you, Kyle.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jake. Definitely important information to keep an eye on, and we want to continue to keep a real-time view as to where things stand there. We also have some information on new home sales. That's going to measure signed contracts on brand new construction. That rose by 7.2% in the month of January, which was stronger than estimates. So year over year, sales in this category are down by 19.4%, but this was the second strong report in a row. So the question is, what are the builders doing that's giving them this level of success? And when we listen into the earnings calls from some of the country's largest builders that are out there, we get some indications as to what the answer is to that question. Over 60% of them cited using incentives like a 2-1 buy down. Now, if this is the first time you've heard that term, then this is absolutely something you should be reaching out to us about. For a lot of you out there that are real estate professionals, you've heard the term of a 2-1 buy down or a temporary buy down, which can be a great approach to use for your listings, but you may not have actually used that yet or looked at some strategies on how you could use a tool like that to be more competitive out there in the market. So if that's the case, this would be a great opportunity to reach out to us. Beyond just bringing you market data week to week on the bottom line, we want to be a resource for the agents that we work with in many different ways. And we'd be happy to go over the specifics as to how you could use a tool like this temporary buy down to market your listings and really just set yourself up in a better position and better serve your clients. So we appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you took a couple things away from watching this week's episode, and we'll see you next week on the bottom line.